Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith, Pennsylvania editor for the Center Square. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Anthony Hennin. So lately we've been hearing a lot about broadband expansion, especially now that the federal government is going to give money to states to do it. So Anthony, can you give us a quick overview of what this new federal program is to help states out?
Yeah, so as with everything, there's always a handful of these programs, different money floating around here. But the main one we're talking about here is called the BEAD program, the Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment Program. And this is going out to every state. It's a pool of about almost $43 billion. And so this is money going out essentially to build out broadband internet in unserved and underserved areas. So generally, a big focus of this is rural America. Another focus is some parts of cities that are generally high poverty and don't necessarily have as good connections. But this is flowing out to each state is getting money according to a formula here. So Pennsylvania is staring down about $1.16 billion. And then when you include some other things like a capital funds program, a few other things, it'll probably be roughly $1.5 billion coming into the Commonwealth over the next, I believe, 10, 15 years or so. And this is essentially get in there, build out some of these unserved areas, improve access in other parts, and try to really get things connected across Pennsylvania from, making it easier for households to get internet at home, improving connections for businesses, but also even some emergency services, make sure police stations and fire departments have reliable service so they'll be in touch and connected with one another.
Okay, great. So we're getting $1 billion, problem solved, right?
If only. Ideally, that's how these things work, right? But along with this money, of course, coming from the federal government, comes a bevy of federal requirements. So this can kind of tweak how the money can be spent. For instance, BEAD generally prefers fiber optic connections rather than using wireless connections or some other forms. It limits public-private partnerships, so this money essentially has to go out in the form of grants to private telecoms companies to build these out. And it's not only federal. Each state has their own laws about how federal funds can be administered or used. Pennsylvania is something that has come up time and time again, is things like the prevailing wage requirements, which generally means higher labor costs in the Commonwealth compared to neighboring states like Ohio or Maryland. You also have other kind of ticky-tacky situations of getting rights of way from railroads or from as small things like connecting wires on utility poles. A lot of those are privately owned, and the government can't just come in and add on lines. So there's a lot of different things going on at the same time. Of not only getting out the money quickly, but of getting through issues like utility pole connections, rights of ways, even zoning can play into this. So to a certain extent, we're seeing localities or states shooting themselves in the foot, or by the end of all this, some states will look very different than other states.
And it's not just building this network too, right? Like obviously we have a shortage of workers or an inability to afford the workers that are out there. But in your article, you discuss how some states are saying that we need to figure out who's going to maintain these services long term, right?
Yeah, this is always a problem when we send out a lot of this money. This is focused on getting that capacity built out and getting these things established. But this is not a one-time. This is not a one-time cost. This will be ongoing maintenance, and this will also be, updating it. We're not running on dial-up internet anymore, or at least, hopefully, you're not anymore. What will this network? What will all of these connections look like in 10 years, 15, 20 years? Will they be maintained the same ways? Those are big, outstanding questions, and this is going to be difficult, especially in these extremely rural areas, to maintain these. These operational costs, similar to maintaining states' highways and roads. It's a long-term cost, and it's not always going to be kept up. But hopefully, this will be done at least in a way where we see some benefits, some long-term benefits coming from it.
Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Anthony Hennin, this is Kristen Smith. Please subscribe, and thanks for listening.